Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to see you. I see participants trickling in, but we'll go ahead and kick everything off right off the bat. My name is Heather Gregg Reed. I am here at CEA CAPA. I oversee our wonderful student engagement team that my colleague Adam is a part of. And we're so excited to welcome you to our alumni panel today. We have some amazing alumni from our programs around the globe, and they're here to answer all of your questions and to tell you more about their experiences abroad. But Adam is going to be our fearless leader and moderator today. Adam, before I pass it over to you to kick things off, I just wanted to share a few housekeeping things for our attendees. You may notice that you can see all of us panelists, but you can't see each other. So for this particular Zoom webinar, we won't have everyone on camera. You won't be able to unmute and ask your questions verbally. So we want you to make good use of that Q&A box that you see down below. That's where you can submit your questions, and you can go ahead and start dropping them as soon as you have them. Our panelists represent a lot of different types of programs, so feel free to direct your question to a specific panelist if you're curious about a specific type of opportunity or location, or you can ask questions broadly and we'll open it up to all of our panelists to share. So with that in mind, over to you, Adam, to officially kick off the panel.
Cool. Thanks so much, Heather. And thank you all so much for taking the time to join, no matter where you're joining from across the continental US. We really appreciate y'all making the time to listen to all these amazing alumni from various programs. As Heather said, my name is Adam Chilliwatt. I'm the Student Engagement Operations Coordinator. My role is I work with all alumni ambassadors in the southeast part of the United States. It's not really about me today. It's where you get to chat with all these amazing panelists. So as Heather mentioned, you can use the Q&A feature to go ahead and start pouring your questions in. We want to get as many questions answered as physically possible today within this roughly hour time frame that we have together. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. I've introduced myself, but I want to make sure I give all of our panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves. So I'm going to call on each of you one by one to just give me a little information about yourself. Really, I'd love to know your name, obviously, where you study abroad at, what your major is, and then where and when you studied abroad at. So I'll start with Ruby because I know you.
Okay, my name is Ruby. I'm pre-med biology major at UGA, and I did the Atlantis program in Rome, Italy over the summer, this past summer, so 2025. And I was there for 3 weeks, and it was so awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Ruby. And UGA, if you're not familiar with it, is the University of Georgia in the Southeast. Um, and I'll go to you, Ryan.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Ryan. I'm a junior. I'm studying business administration with a concentration in marketing and also a minor in environmental studies. This past summer, actually, I was able to study abroad in Prague. I actually did the 8-week internship program from June and July. Um, and yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Did I miss anything? I'm from Binghamton University. That's upstate New York.
There you go. Cool. Sounds great. All right, Lucas.
Awesome. How's it going, everyone? My name's Lucas. Studied abroad this past fall in Barcelona, 15-week program. I am currently at Cal Poly studying business finance. So just along the central coast of California, right in between San Francisco and LA. But yeah, super excited to be here and share some experiences with y'all.
Cool. All right, Hema.
Hi everyone, so excited to be here. My name is Hema Sanchez. I'm a fourth year public health major at Santa Clara, so Northern California. And I studied abroad in Bangkok, Thailand through CIS Abroad. And am I missing anything?
I don't think so. When did you
Okay.
study abroad? Last fall?
Oh, fall 2025, yeah.
Cool. Sounds great. Daniel, you are last but not least.
Yeah, so hey everyone, my name is Daniel Petronik. I go to Bradley University. I'm actually double majoring in industrial engineering as well as Spanish. And in spring of 2025, I studied abroad in Buenos Aires and I did the engineering program with CEA CAPA.
Cool. Awesome. As you can tell, we got some really cool people here today to answer your questions. So the first question I have, just to kind of get the ball rolling, break the ice a bit outside of knowing who they are, is we like to emphasize that like study abroad is study abroad, whether it's a shadowing program, an internship program, or you're taking classes while abroad. Could a couple of you just emphasize what your experiences were like abroad academically and kind of explain how it supported your academic journey?
Yeah, I can take this one to start. I'm business finance here at Cal Poly, and there were some really cool courses available in Barcelona. So I took some class like international business, international finance, and that was really cool. I think to get kind of a worldview on business finance as a whole, right? Like here at Cal Poly, we kind of talk a lot about American economics, kind of how things work here in the States, but kind of getting a new European view was really cool. I thought it was really cool that CA CAPA offered those classes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'd love to. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, you first.
Okay. I did the Atlantis program, so I didn't take classes. I was actually shadowing in a hospital in Rome. And so it was really interesting to see like global health side because I do research in global health and also have a minor in health policy. So learning all about their health system and everything was super awesome. And yeah,
Ruby, can I ask a follow-on question real quick?
yes.
It's so amazing that you had an opportunity to do hands-on shadowing, and I'm curious if you could just comment briefly on how you're hoping to leverage that either academically or professionally in your future.
Yes, so I got the opportunity to shadow abroad when I was in high school, and I've always been looking for that experience when I was in college, and I found Atlantis, and it was truly life-changing, and I'm pre-med, and so being able to shadow different specialties each week like really was eye-opening to what do I want to do with the rest of my life, and do I want to change or things like that, and it just I couldn't recommend it more having that experience and stepping out of your comfort zone because a lot of the specialties I would have never picked myself to do that in America or have that opportunity. So being put in that position was just so helpful for my future.
It's awesome.
Thank you, Ruby.
Yeah.
Then
Daniel, I saw
who
you
was
had your
next?
Oh, yeah. So, like I said, I study engineering as well as Spanish, and naturally, I picked a country that spoke Spanish. So, I was able to take a couple Spanish classes, and I volunteered too as a sort of independent study. And then for engineering, it was really nice because I was able to take some technical electives for industrial engineering. So I took classes like data visualization, international business, as well as linear algebra. So all of that counted towards my degree, which was super nice. And a lot of people think it sets you back if you study abroad and you won't have time, but you can find a way to have it work out for you.
Cool. Ryan, I saw you had your hand up too.
Yeah. So I obviously did the internship program, which is really interesting and I think unique, both in Prague because you get that kind of like global experience working with people across the globe, making connections across the globe with both interns and then people who've worked in industries for 15 plus years, in different places, not even just Prague. And so interesting enough, they also have a CEA CAPA also has a class that goes alongside this internship program, which I thought was really helpful. The class is really meant to help you reflect and make sure you're getting the most out of your internship. And ultimately, I think that really helped me a lot in terms of getting the most out of that.
Cool. That's great. Hema, yeah.
Yes, I can go last. So I think a huge concern in going abroad as a senior is that there's kind of no room for that professional development still, or that study abroad is just a break from reality. But it was one of the times when I felt like most academically aligned. I finished my poli-sci minor while I was in Thailand and took classes like Thai foreign policy and censorship in the politics of truth. So, as someone really interested in sustainable development and public policy, learning about different UN agencies in Bangkok, and because Bangkok is a huge hub for the UN in Southeast Asia and Asia. So, like after that time, I've really been able to focus on like the grad programs I want to pursue. And right now, I think the best for me is an environmental MPH, especially after writing my thesis. Well, I'm in the process of writing my thesis and I'm from Phoenix. So being in a hot capital city like Bangkok and being from Phoenix, really, I'm really interested in heat-related vulnerabilities among minorities. So just continuing to explore that and getting that international perspective was super helpful.
Cool. Yeah, those are all super helpful and really cool to know. Daniel, I might ask you about how you got volunteering experience abroad earlier because that was one of my things. Like, how did you come about that? If you have a second.
Yeah, so it was actually really helpful because I made sure as I was applying, as I was talking with my CEA advisor, I was like, is there any way I could get an extra Spanish class in there? If they know any volunteering opportunities? Because my university, they have an independent study opportunity with Spanish where if you have a certain amount of hours and you're using it while speaking Spanish, it works great. It's a practicum in Spanish. And so they contacted the on-site staff in Buenos Aires and they knew a few organizations. And it was great too because one of the organizations I volunteered with was Engineers Without Borders. So it was nice because it had to do with what I was studying too. And it really helped my Spanish because I was talking to people my age who only spoke Spanish. It was just great.
Cool. Super helpful to know. And we kind of have gotten a couple questions in the chat, kind of similar, asking about like life abroad, how to get involved. And so one of the questions I had to ask you guys too is, while you were on site, like engaging in the local culture, what was that like? Was there specific excursions that were offered by the programs you went abroad with that kind of really stood out to you that helped, or were there other ways outside of excursions that you were able to get involved? Could you give me a couple of examples of those and what stuck out to you?
Yeah, I can take this one again. There was a really cool excursion that CA Kappa did to a FC Barcelona game. Pretty much like the whole like CA Kappa like group, we all went to that FC Barcelona game. That was a ton of fun. We all sat in one section together. There's also an excursion to Madrid. That was, all expenses paid, hotel, museum trips. It was really phenomenal. So those were two really, really cool excursions that CA Kappa put on for us.
One thing that we had in Rome is we had city managers. So there were people like around our age from Italy, and I was like, okay, they're gonna act like our parents, but really each weekend they on Fridays they would take us all around Rome, just how they like experience Rome, and they would take us to their favorite restaurant once a week, and then on Fridays they would take us somewhere different around town that we would have no idea where to go, like if we weren't with a local. And I thought that was so cool, and really like learning so much about the culture and being just with the locals.
Yeah, I'd have to say one of my favorite trips that we did with CEA is we went to Iguazu Falls, and that was amazing. It's way bigger than Niagara Falls, if you don't know. But it was just an amazing experience, and the nature. If you choose South America, there'll be tons of nature. And yeah, along with that, they know you're studying abroad, and they will make sure that you have time to travel on your own too. You won't always be in class, and that's one concern I had is I wanted time to myself, to explore the city, explore the country, travel, all that. So it's easy to make time to travel on your own too, if that's more your thing.
Cool.
Yeah,
I love
Prague
that.
was
Go ahead, Ryan. Yeah.
Prague was quite similar in that they had like excursions to like other cities in Prague, and during those excursions they would have activities planned. I think one time we went to a brewery that was really cool, and then in Prague they had certain events like we had the option to go to ballets. They had a free river cruise, some beach volleyball, and I will say one thing that was really interesting to me is that they had the center at Prague had a very interesting and fun challenge where they had a bunch of landmarks in Prague or a bunch of places in Prague that you would go to, take a selfie at, and you would get points for it, and the person with the most points would get a prize at the end. I thought that was a really good way to just explore the city.
That does sound really fun. I'm jealous of all of you. I want a question. It was actually the first question that came in, and I think this is a question I would have had going abroad is like budgeting, and not just for financing your study abroad experience in general, but like once you get there, because obviously you're a student first, so you're not really working while you're abroad. And so when y'all were planning to budget your experience wherever you went abroad in the world, what was your thought process for that? Keeping in mind that every location is different, cost of living is different everywhere you go, and your spending habits might also be different. So when y'all were planning it, I'd love for at least two or three, maybe four of you to chime in on like what was your thought process with it.
I can answer this one. I think so my experience with budgeting was definitely, I think maybe a little different than some of the other locations because Thailand is known to be a really affordable place. But something that I want to highlight and something that you obviously learn through traveling and through just like growing up and prioritizing becoming an ethical and responsible global citizen is just because something is cheaper, just because a location is cheaper, um, doesn't mean you can continue to spend, we're spending with our American dollars, but then like when a ton of tourists come in and when you're coming in as a tourist, like that can really skew a country's like natural rhythm if you're constantly thinking, oh, this is so affordable, I would have to pay like so much money for this food or this experience like back in the States. So I really tried working, whether it was like my local Thai friends or my on-site like program coordinators about like really how to spend in and like supporting local businesses, just making sure to always like support street vendors because we didn't have kitchens, so we were constantly relying on like outside food. So definitely always spending responsibly and taking into account that it's not always super necessary to leave every single weekend, especially when you're somewhere that really requires a lot of time to get used to. So yeah, definitely always bring more than you think and save and work a lot before. But it's totally doable with really whatever amount of money you have.
Emma, you had such great thoughts there, and I want to give the rest of the group a chance to chime in, but we've gotten several budget related questions. So I wanted to expand a little bit on what you shared. As you think about budgeting, and as Adam said, everyone may have come in with their own budget, their own priorities, but do remember that investing in getting to know the local community and culture is not only a great way to make the most of your time abroad, it's a great way to balance your budget while you're there. Hema was talking about the housing in Thailand. It can be different in different locations. You may have a kitchen available to you where you're located, so you could use it as a great opportunity to go explore local grocery stores, local produce, try something new in terms of what you cook. Some students live with host families, and often host families help provide some food that is not only a great way to balance your budget, but so delicious as well. I totally wish I had someone cooking me a few meals a day. So do be aware of your particular program and think through what your living situation will be. Think through what your priorities are, and that might help you align your budget with what you're hoping to accomplish from your time abroad. And the last thing I'll say before I hand it back to the reason why we're all here, the alums, there was a great question about resources that are available. So I did want to highlight that not only does CEA CAPA have scholarships available that are listed on the website, we offer things like flight credits, but go see your study abroad office as well. Often your home institution will have funding opportunities either themselves or can connect you with funding opportunities that are available to all US students to apply for. So definitely make use of your resources. Speak to your study abroad office and don't hesitate to go to them or to your financial aid office to seek some advice on how to prep for your finances for your time abroad. Back over to y'all. Daniel.
Yeah, so one, I have two tips and tricks, I guess. The first was making sure your debit or credit card, just knowing the foreign transaction fee, or you can get one that doesn't have one, which is also great. That's what I did, as well as ATM fees. Some, it depends if you're withdrawing cash. That's also good to know if there's a fee, if there even is one. Just be mindful of that. And then second, if you do want to travel, do solo travel in your free time. I highly recommend the website Skyscanner for flights, and you can get some really cheap flights to wherever you want. Yeah.
I love it. I'll kind of add some stuff in here too. For some core numbers for you guys, and I think I was probably on the higher end budgeting wise for Barcelona. I came in expecting to spend around $10,000. That was kind of my personal budget. That was including many trips on the weekends. I ended up going to 10 different countries and seeing a ton of different places, like all across Europe. And I ended up spending around $10 to $11,000 if you guys want some hardcore numbers there. Um, I was pretty stingy on food, especially in Barcelona, just looking for deals, shopping on my own, cooking, and was a little bit more luxurious on my trips when I was, doing excursions, doing activities. But I've had friends, spend, south of $6,000 to $8,000 on, study abroad after the tuition fees. So that's definitely possible. When it comes to scholarships, Heather was bringing up some great additional funding opportunities. Some things that I took advantage of were the Gilman International Scholarship Program for Pell Grant recipients. That's a great, great option. Fund for Education Abroad, FEA. There's a ton of scholarships available there, along with all of CEA CAPA's scholarships as well. They give out, tens of thousands of dollars each year in scholarships. So there are tons of, funding opportunities out there. I was somebody that kind of, had to pay for myself here on my, study abroad experience, and those scholarships were extremely, extremely helpful for me. So definitely take advantage of those if you're in a similar scenario.
Yeah, Ruby, I saw you unmuted too.
Yes, this wasn't with like the amount of money like Atlantis was, but something that we did find out is Eurail was so great. Even though I was only there for 3 weeks, we did travel each weekend and being like, oh, it's only like 6 days of travel, but Eurail is perfect because they have like a 5 day pass and you can change your train as many times as you want. And Italy, like they aren't the best with trains, and so like a train will show up late and then you miss your next one, but your rail doesn't charge you any. If you have used that day, then you can keep booking as many tickets as you want, and I think it was so helpful in that way.
Cool. Super helpful. Yeah, Ryan.
I would also just add like one last travel tip for people who want to travel. Um, a lot of times hotels cost a lot, right? So what I did was I actually stayed in this thing called a hostel. And basically, for lack of a better definition, it's like a college dorm. Uh, I would just advise like traveling lightly, but that's like a really good like cheap alternative. Like a lot of them cost like maybe like under $30 per night.
And to add to that, I was traveling with a group of 6 girls, and we're like, oh my gosh, we can't stay in a hostel. Best decision ever. They would have girl private rooms. So we would have our own bathroom, and then we would have our own room. And it was like, this is so much better than a hotel because you're with everyone. So yeah, I highly suggest hostels too.
Some really great tips here. And Adam, if you don't mind if I queue up the next question, because I'm seeing a perfect segue. There's a question about safety abroad. And I love that you guys shared tips, but Ruby, you were just commenting on also the importance of being aware of your safety abroad. Generally, what I say is whatever practices you would use in a city here in the US, apply while you're abroad, right? So you wouldn't leave your items unattended in the middle of New York City. Don't do that while you're abroad either. But one thing I do recommend that might be a little bit different is take advantage of the fact that you have support staff on site that are there to care for you, provide for you, and answer your questions, and ask them, especially when you are thinking about how can I approach these things I'm really excited to do, but do it safely. They'll be able to provide advice on if hostel culture in the country that you are in is safe, and if so, tips for things to look for as you are planning your travel. The best, safest, most reliable, most affordable way to approach your travel. Really lean on your Insight staff to support with that. And then the other thing I'll share related to health and safety that is really helpful to know across all of our programs is we do require all of our students to participate in our medical insurance while they're abroad. And that's to make sure that we can be there to help and support students with anything that might arise. So not only can we help advise on the insurance policy that our students have, but if something were to come up, we have staff in country. We also have an on-call line that can be reached 24/7 to make sure that students are safe and have access to advice, whether you're not feeling safe or we hope nobody, gets sick or breaks a leg or anything, but occasionally it happens and our staff is there in country to make sure students are fully supported. I saw someone else unmute or a hand.
Oh,
Who would
you
like to
already
jump?
mentioned it. It was about the
Okay,
emergency
great.
phone line. Yeah. And also, we had an app if you did feel
Yes,
unsafe that would track your location and it would ping it to them if you ever were in a bad situation. Luckily, I wasn't. But if you ever need that, it's a good peace of mind.
that's such a great call out, Daniel. Yes, we do ask every student to download that app that Daniel is referencing so that we know where our students are, and we can check in immediately if we need to give advice on health and safety to our students while they're abroad.
And another thing I want to add is for my program at least, and I'm sure it's common across all programs, we have forms that we fill out with our planned weekend excursions or whenever we're leaving the country or whenever we're leaving our our main our main apartment or our main place we're staying. And also another tip would be to download offline Google Maps just so you can always have access to directions. Have apps like Google Translate if like you're not in a country where you speak the language. And just as a general rule of thumb, always let at least someone know where you are. Even if it's your site director, I promise you're not bothering them. And I'm sure it gives parents peace of mind too that you always have a trusted adult that you can call. But yeah, definitely just make sure you have your either international plan or SIM card in check, especially when you're traveling between countries. Make sure you have all the little essential apps for your specific region. And again, don't be afraid of asking questions too. Everyone's here to support you.
Emma,
100%.
you just mentioned some other important details, which is for students who are still a little ways off from their time abroad, there's more pre-departure information coming to you from CEA CAPA. We do Ready for Takeoff series where students and parents can tune in to learn all about how to prep for your time abroad, how to know things like setting up a phone or preparing to be in communication abroad, how to make sure that you are staying safe. And we require students to participate in an orientation when they arrive so that not only can you meet your peers, you can meet staff, but we go over those really important details too. So know that this is just the starting point. Our advice and feedback today is the first of many great details and opportunities you'll have to connect. Ruby.
I just wanted to say, so our city managers, since Atlantis was a lot smaller than I'm guessing like the other programs that are a full semester, we had like 15 people on mine and we were on the smaller side, but each week my city manager would be like, okay, Ruby, where are you planning to go and bringing everyone on this whole trip? And I would be like, okay, here are the Airbnbs and hostels we found. And she would literally go through them with me and be like, this is a good area. This is a bad area. Don't go there. And she would advise me on where to stay and then also like where to not go. And someone mentioned in the questions about road safety, there are, I feel like there's people out all night, I mean, till the next day, and it can get a little scary. And we always like walked from our apartment to get food, and maybe it got late at night. We always came together, and there was also trams running on the middle of the street all day, and those were really helpful because they weren't scary and they weren't underground or anything. And I feel like Rome, I was never unsafe. And yeah, I really felt safe there. And especially being with all girls, like we never felt uncomfortable.
Cool. Yeah, and that's great to know too. It's always great to lean on center staff and site staff whenever there are any concerns that you have. And also, if you're currently a student that's applying to go on a program within this summer, this fall, next spring, just know that you also have a CA CAPA representative or CIS representative, Atlantis representative that can speak to you regarding any of the questions too. So if for some reason we're not able to get to your question today, just know that we want to connect with you, but we want to make sure that you also know you have resources prior to going to that you have. So I think you should have their information if you're a student that's currently applying. But yeah, that's great. One of the things, I'm looking at one of the questions we had earlier. I'm trying to find it again. One of the questions was regarding roommates, housing. That's one of the major questions I feel like I get a lot if I'm talking with a prospective student ever. So for your cases, I'd love to hear from CIS, Atlantis, and CA Kappa with the housing process, whether you stayed in a homestay or with roommates or however it worked. What was that process like before you went? And then what was it like when you arrived? And then what was it like while you were there?
I can go first. So, as part of CIS Abroad, we were in apartments right by our university, which is actually like 30 minutes away from Bangkok, which ended up being like super ideal and really gave us like a really, really cool local experience. But as I mentioned before, our apartments were very much like hotel style. They came with cleaning services and there we didn't have access to kitchens, but I think the good thing was that the all the things that initially might have been an adjustment ended up being the things that I missed the most because no one has time for cooking, and I wish I would have like cherished that time more or like had a longer time to like be reliant on outside food. But yeah, my roommate was there were two girls from my university going, counting myself, and we were roommates. And but honestly, most people, since they didn't really have many people from their university going, got single rooms. But the blessing there is like even if you do have a single, even if you are someone that really needs their alone time, you are with a ton of either local Thai students or you're from international exchange students or just exchange students in general. So you really get that like constant socializing. You get a lot of amenities like laundry, you get a pool, like really convenience stores always close to you. So you'll never feel lonely within your housing. I think all study abroad programs do a really good job of making sure you feel integrated regardless of the situation you come into the program with.
Yeah. Housing was one of my biggest worries coming in to study abroad. Was like, where am I going to live, right? And I think a lot of people feel that way. And this was actually one of the main reasons that my friends and I picked CA Kappa was like, hey, they're going to help us with housing, right? Like we are going to get housing through CA Kappa. And we had some other friends that didn't choose CA Kappa and went with another program that didn't include housing and they had to find an Airbnb and it kind of turns into a lot of work, right? So that's one of CA Kappa's main selling points is like, hey, housing is handled. And that was huge. And then, we go with CA Kappa and then like we're about to go abroad, we're like, man, like what are these apartments going to look like? We got there and these apartments seriously exceeded all expectations. Like they were pristine condition. We had cleaners come every week. It was seriously amazing. And every single other apartment that I went to in Barcelona was amazing. It was, we kind of thought it was going to be kind of rough, a little, outdated. These things were renovated. CA Kappa on-site officials had our backs when it came to, anything that was happening, on the ground. It was seriously a blessing because then the people that didn't choose CA Kappa and went with their own housing, went with Airbnbs, ran into issues, and even had some people get kicked out. It was it's tough, but CA Kappa had our backs. I would seriously, strongly recommend CA Kappa if you're worried about housing at all.
Yeah, also just to add on to like the CA CAPA thing, for to talk about more about like a little bit about the process of like finding roommates and stuff. Once you are officially going to that place, you will be put into some sort of like housing portal where you can put a little description of yourself, some of your habits, like, oh, I like to sleep early, or I like to sleep late, or I like to go outside. And from that, you can look at what other people have said, and you have the liberty of really just going out and reaching out to these people through this program or through this portal, um, and trying to find roommates that way. And if you don't, you will be put with random people. But I mean, I haven't really heard any horrible experiences with random roommates. I personally went random too. I had five other roommates. We lived in a really great, like almost a flat in CA Kappa and in the center of Prague. We actually lived amongst the locals, which was really cool. And most people were there to make friends, to make memories. And so I would say, like, no matter what or no matter who you end up with, you're gonna have a fun time. And there's probably not gonna be that many problems, if any.
Daniel,
Yeah,
I see your hand up.
yeah. And more about homestays. I'd like to touch on that. I saw a question about should I do an apartment by myself or a homestay. Me, I did a homestay and I loved it. Not only do they cook for you and you get to be a part of this local family and they sort of make you like one of you're part of their family and they talk to you and you can practice your language skills depending on where you go. It was really nice. They happened to not speak much English, which was also good because I had to practice my Spanish only. But yeah, I highly recommend doing a homestay if you're on the fence about it. Me, at first I did want to live in an apartment on my own. I was like, oh, I want to live on my own and do all that, but it really helps to be with a family and they're there for you too.
I really appreciate you sharing that perspective, Danielle, because I think homestays are the type of housing that people are most nervous about coming in. But in all of my years of working with study abroad students, it's also the type of housing that is spoken about most highly once a student completes their time abroad. So for those of you that are on the fence, I highly recommend it, as Danielle said. And for
Yeah.
those of you that are already committed, don't be nervous. I really think you're going to love the experience. So thanks for sharing that, Danielle.
I was going to say that as well with all the ambassadors that I work with, homestays, if they had one, always come highly rated, and they have the same situation as Daniel. Like they might not have spoken English, but I got to get better in XYZ language because of it. And you don't have to speak the same language as somebody to understand them. So, Ruby, I saw you had your hand raised.
Yeah, so I came in with, they put us in a group chat, I think like a week before, and they were like, oh, get to know one another. And I was like, I can't reach out. I'm so scared. Like, I guess I'll just meet you there. I don't know. And so, I didn't know anyone going, and I actually met them in the airport, and we were on the same flight from Atlanta. And luckily, we became roommates. We didn't get to choose. They grouped us together with people who we think we liked, and they all three went to Ohio State, and they were like, we've never met someone from the South before. And I was like, I've never met someone from the North. So it was super cool. And now we're like best friends, and they want to come to Athens, and we were the most opposite people ever. And it was the best experience ever, like going random roommates. I didn't know it was an option to room with someone you knew, but I didn't know anyone. So I highly suggest if you don't be afraid. You're gonna make your best friends. And yeah, that's what I had to say.
Brings up a good point, Ruby. I have a lot of ambassadors too, and y'all might be the same way where they said I was the only one that I knew going abroad. Like it was just me. I went abroad alone. That's one of the concerns and questions that a lot of students have. I'm curious for any of y'all, was it similar to Ruby's case where you might have been the only student from your school or the only person that you knew that was going abroad? What that was like, if y'all want to talk on that. If you went abroad with a bunch of people you knew, great. But that might not be the case for everyone.
Yeah, so me, I was the only one for my school. Like I said, my school's really small, so I didn't expect anyone to be there. But there were a lot of people from the Chicago area who went to like U of I, UIC, and stuff like that. So it was just really funny because we were in this other country, and then oh, people from Chicago too. But yeah, people from all around the country, and I still talk to them, and it's super nice to get to know them.
Yeah, I would say I had like a pretty similar experience in that I was one of two that went to Krog from my school. And similar to Daniel, like I kind of went in not knowing anyone. I got five random roommates, didn't really know how it was going to work out, but I can safely say that, I'm still in touch with them a lot. We did a lot of activities together, whether it just be, your everyday activities like grocery shopping or even just going to like local parks, local festivals with each other. And also just, traveling to different places. And I think that was a really good experience just to also get myself out of the comfort zone of like, I didn't know anyone. So I had to adapt to, making friends there. And, everyone's there just to make friends. A lot of people are going to be in your situation where you don't know that many people or anyone. And so, especially that orientation is the time to really meet people, get to know people, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be needing friends there, or wanting friends there, and wanting the same things as you from your study abroad experience.
Cool. That's great to know. Yeah, Lucas, this one's actually for you. It was specifically, they want to know what a day in the life was like in Barcelona, specifically like getting to and from class, getting around the city, food, groceries, laundry, entertainment. And I think this kind of revolves around a similar theme of like, what is it like to change everything from going abroad to what you're used to, like hobbies wise, like what is around you to an entirely new environment. I would love for you, Lucas, to answer this, but also anyone else who may have experienced culture shock, adjusting to new routines, what life is like abroad.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I would say one thing is that the metro system in Barcelona is phenomenal. So, CA Kappa does a really good job of putting your apartment pretty close to CA Kappa Center where you'll be going to school. But everything was within a 2-minute metro ride. I mean, I was, pretty much a 1-minute metro ride away from the station, or sorry, away from the campus, the CA Kappa Center. So that made it super easy. When it comes to laundry, there was an in-unit washing machine. There was racks to air dry. There was also laundromats right around the corner if you wanted your clothes dried quickly. When it comes to food, there was, grocery stores, all around. You just get your little reusable bag, your reusable cart, load the groceries in, bring them back to the apartment. There's tons of little, local restaurants all around Barcelona. We were in Eixample, and just so many local businesses with tons of different cuisines for super relatively cheap, especially to American prices. So if you wanted something quick, there was tons of options there. Supermarkets where you could get quick little snacks if you wanted to. But yeah, seriously, tons of options. Yeah.
Yeah, and something I learned too when I got there is don't make the same mistake I did the first like 2 or 3 weeks. I was too afraid to like go out in public and go to a restaurant and order something in Spanish, and but just don't be afraid. Don't stay in your own personal bubble. Don't be afraid to go out there and talk to the local people. Depending on where you are, they're gonna be really nice. So and a lot of people know English too, so if you think language is a barrier, you can point to things, just learn how to say hello and thank you, anything. But yeah, don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone.
My on that same note, I think my main advice is just lean in. I think it sounds pretty like self-explanatory, like it sounds pretty obvious, but in the end, like your experience really is like however long from a few weeks to a few months. And I think even if you are somewhere like that is super, super different where you don't speak the language, I think CIS Abroad and CEA Kappa, especially because they're small programs, they do a great job of really helping you feel constantly in community, facilitating community, having really easy references to alumni. The CIS Thailand program is really new at my school, so so I was like, oh, I'm going to Thailand, and it's just one other girl, and it's with CIS. I would be met with a little bit of hesitation, like because there's always that concern about safety. Um, but I think once you get over that hurdle and really make it like, and you really trust your international community and trust your study abroad program, like through because they're constantly sending you WhatsApp chats or emails and really being super thorough about preparing you for this immense like global experience, you start feeling more comfortable and ready to just like, you know, fully be able to be yourself abroad. And like Adam was getting to earlier, like belonging can exist far away from familiarity. And like everyone was touching on before, even if you don't know anyone, that doesn't mean that you won't find similarities. Um, because in the end, like you're on the same wavelength if you went to the same location. Most of the people from my program were the only people from their schools or one of two, whatever. So yeah, it'll be you'll end up finding the community and friends that you are really hoping for, and you will be rewarded for that risk and that like fear that you may have experienced along the way. And it's so worth it, and you'll be helped along every step of the way. Like by the end of it, I was hanging out with Anne, my site director, and like asking her to go places with me in places she hadn't been in Bangkok in like 10 years. So don't limit yourself to just students. Like you can really hang out with anyone that you.
Go ahead, Ruby.
I was gonna say my days look a little bit different, and so after shadowing at the hospital we had to like get up at be downstairs. They had a coupon for us every single morning, the same cafe right underneath our apartment. We became best friends with the owner, and she made me drink espresso on the last day because I would always get water, and she would be like, "How are you still awake?" And we just made that connection. And so we would leave at 6 a.m. and sometimes surgery doesn't get out until 7 p.m. and you can stay that long. And something that we really had to work on is like, we're like, oh, we're so tired after such a long day of shadowing. But we really had to make the most of it because we're in Rome for 10 more days and we should go out tonight and go to a restaurant. And sometimes like we were like, we just want to stay home and get groceries and eat, and that was fine. But making yourself do stuff too it turned out to be the best thing to do because you're not there for a long period of time and it really does go by so fast.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of just like going off what Gemma and Ruby said, like I agree, like definitely try and get out and do stuff more, embrace the experience. But I guess like in terms of like other ways to deal with culture shock, one of the best ways to do it is to really get into routine. So if you have a class every day at a certain time, make sure you're getting up at the same time every time. If there's something in the US that you're doing, for example, going to the gym every day or going for morning runs, make sure you're making time to do that because that is really going to help you with the culture shock. I'd also say staying in contact with people at home is also probably a very good way to stay in contact. I know like during the weeks I would always be updating my family like what I was doing and catching up with what was happening at home, and that really helped me mitigate kind of that culture shock because it felt like I was still at home in a way, but I was also making my own experiences.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I was going to ask, I see Ruby, you're typing this, but I guess this is kind of a good thing to mention. And just super briefly, like for all of you, like prioritizing your health, prioritizing your time abroad. One question is like access to gyms, access to fitness centers while abroad. Did any of you experience this, and what did that look like? If you go to the gym, or you like to work out, or you like to go to like a certain center to get some type of activity, and what did that look like for you abroad?
So
Yeah,
specifically,
go
ooh,
for it. No, go
sorry.
for it, Ruby. Go for it.
Answering the question that she said in Rome, where our apartments were, there was a gym right underneath it, not connected with our apartments, but I actually went abroad and the girl who was with me was a D1 soccer athlete, and she was like, I have to play soccer, and there was so many local parks that she went to, and then my other roommate was training for a half marathon in every state. She's crazy athletic, and she was like, do you want to run with me? I was like, I haven't ran since senior year, but I don't want you to go alone. So I got back into shape and started running, and I didn't get a gym membership to that specific gym, but so many people did because they had like a 2 week long program or a month if you just want to try it out. So definitely an option.
Yeah, Lucas, I saw you were going to
Yeah.
respond to it.
Yeah, so I did have a gym membership. It was called Viva Gym in Barcelona. There's just a ton of locations kind of all around our area. And it was like any ordinary gym, like here in the States, machines, benches, like cables, anything you would want, treadmills, ellipticals. It was pretty ordinary. So yes, definitely options out there when it comes to working out in gyms.
Cool. And this kind of relates to housing earlier. We have a couple questions from the parents in the chat, which is always very kind and sweet. Your parents, guardians, supporters, friends, people visiting you abroad, did you ever have family come visit you during your time there? What was that like? Or did you typically wait until afterwards? Heather, I also see you unmuted. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to answer the first part of the question, which is, can families stay in student housing? The answer is CA CAPA housing is for CA CAPA students only, but parents come visit all the time. And the other part of
Yeah.
the question was about how much time you had outside of your classes, or in Ruby, your case, shadowing hours, internships, etc. So if you maybe want to speak to what it was like to have people visit, and also how you navigated balancing your class or shadowing obligations with your free time and your desire to get to know your local community and culture.
Yeah, it was super common, like Heather said, for parents to visit. So I think that's super exciting that Kelly and Kendall, you guys are both doing that. Um, I would say even if you were allowed to stay in the apartment, there's not a ton of room. So I think you guys don't even worry about that. The more common thing was just to get a hotel room. I personally didn't have my parents come, but a ton of my roommates' parents came and made it happen. So there was plenty of time outside of classes to make it work. And even while, they were in classes, the parents would, go out to a lunch or something, or, go explore the city a little bit, go see something that maybe the student has already seen. So when you're with your kid, that you guys can go see something cool and unique that he or she hasn't seen yet, right? So ton of time, absolutely doable. Would definitely encourage it.
Great to know. Let me see. I know we got a lot of questions in the chat. Moving
Yeah, I
through.
can jump in with another one that
Yeah.
I would like to talk about. I know we mentioned excursions. There was a question around who organizes these things? How do you participate in activities? So I can just say generally across all of our programs, our awesome staff on site plan great activities for students, plan points of connectivity, whether it's orientation or one-off activities like going to see an FC game versus a longer weekend excursion or a day trip. So I know you all talked about excursions, but I would love to just segue into talking about on-site support in general and anything that you found really valuable or helpful, or maybe a way that you plugged in to the community on site, whether it was through the staff that were there or your fellow cohort members that were there.
Yeah, so I'd love to answer that. The on-site staff were amazing. They were super friendly, and they were always available to talk. They had like a WhatsApp group chat as well as like a WhatsApp number that would reach them. And like I'd always have like random questions about things to do in the city or where to get somewhere. And they also have amazing like travel recommendations because they're locals oftentimes, so they know they might be able to recommend a couple places if you're looking for some travel ideas. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Can you believe we only have 8 minutes left? So some of these last questions will be kind of like rapid fire if they come up. One of the questions they had, which I think is a really good one to have, especially since we have students from different programs represented here, is like literally day one when you step off the plane. What happened? Like, did you have to walk to class from there? Was there no one there to pick you up? Did you feel abandoned? Those are often concerns that students will have. But if could you speak on what it was like on day one arriving, what that looked like for orientation, getting acquainted with the area?
I can speak to this. So actually, because of we had about a week between our arrival day and our orientation at the university. Once we landed in Bangkok, we had a group of students that were also coming in from different places. And then we had arranged transportation from the airport to a hotel. At that hotel, we got acquainted with people, got to get a little bit adjusted, sleep a little because we were still you know, like recovering from the travel day. And then a few days later, we had our orientation at our university when we had already been moved into our apartments and stuff. So the 2 days after we landed, we moved in, we drove to our long-term apartment, had on-site orientation with our site directors, and then the university did an amazing job of greeting us. So that was on a Thursday, and then on Monday we started school. So there was and had like an excursion the day before on Wednesday to the temples in Bangkok. So there was a lot of time to rest, get adjusted, hydrate instead of just going right into class, which is something I enjoyed. And so since that moment, I knew that our well-being was always going to be prioritized.
Yeah, one great thing that CA Kappa offered was airport pickup, right? Like we all fly in, at least from California going to Europe to Barcelona, it was, 12 hours, 13 hours, something insane. You're all jet lagged. Thankfully I had a buddy on my flight, but you get there to the airport and you have two checked bags you got to carry on and you're kind of like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" CA Kappa had people right there at the exit of the airport waiting for us, and we got like a private taxi. It wasn't even a taxi. I don't even know what you would call it. It was like a private van with a private driver in a suit, and drove us straight to our apartment. That was great because we don't know how we were going to get to our apartment. I mean, I guess we would have had an Uber or taxi or something, kind of figured it out, but that stress was not there. CA Kappa took care of that, which was great. And yeah, boots on the ground, kind of just, start unpacking. There was somebody there at our apartment waiting for us with our key in hand, waiting to greet us and kind of show us around, give us the Wi-Fi, show us what rooms we were going to be in. So staff was there, ready, prepared. And that was extremely, extremely comforting, day one for us.
How about you, Ruby?
Okay, so ours wasn't exactly like that, and I got to learn a lot really fast. And we did have people at the airport who were waiting on us, and they were directing us where to go. And they were like, "Okay, you can get a taxi or you can take the train. And the people I was with wanted to take the train. And I was like, okay, we're actually hitting the ground running, trying to learn everything. So we did. And it actually took us straight to our apartment. So it wasn't a big deal at all. And she kept texting, like, where are y'all? And we're like, we're trying to carry all of our stuff off this train. And it was a good bonding experience with all of my future roommates. And then we finally met the city manager right at the apartment. She had our keys in hand, literally took up all of our luggage because she saw that we were dying, and it was perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's a good call out too for geographical locations of major international airports are not always in the city center. Similar to Rome, it's 30, 45 minutes into the city center via train. And that's pretty common among a lot of major international airports too, where it's not just like you step off and you're there. But it's great to know you have support either way. Yeah.
Can I be selfish and ask the last question, Adam? Well, first of all, I'll say I think we got to most questions. There's a few we didn't. So we're going to send out this recording after, along with some FAQs, and any questions we didn't get to, we'll try our very best to make sure they're answered in our follow-on email. But my favorite question to always end with is if you all were speaking to a student, are speaking to a student that's on the fence about going abroad in 30 seconds or less, what would you say to them? And I'd love for each of you to answer if we have time.
Yeah. I think one kind of summary word would be seriously just transformational, right? I'd never been to Europe before. I never even left the country, and this was kind of my opportunity to do so. I would say go for it. I know it can be scary. I know it can be intimidating, personally, financially, everything. But I promise you, being on the other side of it, 15 weeks later, it was also worth it. I made so many lifelong memories. So I guess I would just say go for it.
Yeah, I would say it is incredibly worth it, and it was an amazing experience. I have a whole new perspective and appreciation of the world and traveling in general. I met a lot of great friends, and I formed a lot of um, sort of lifelong bonds with the people I met too. Language, obviously, language immersion greatly improved my skills, if that's something you're going for too. Learning beyond the classroom, so it wasn't just in the classroom. Um, and just being self-sufficient too, being more independent and overcoming the whole. It's a challenge to study abroad because you're on your own in another country, but overcoming that challenge, you'll be so happy you did it in the end.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, somewhere along the lines of both Daniel and Lucas, like it was definitely a life-changing experience. You get to learn a lot both about yourself and as like a person as well as like in my case a professional or a student. You get to meet a lot of different people from across both the US and across, the world, learn about different cultures, and that really opens your mind to a lot of different things. Like I personally thought I was always like one track mind. Like I always thought the same way, but when you meet people from across the world, even from different parts of the US, you tend to learn a lot about how people were raised and like how even though you have one opinion, someone else can have a completely different opinion and they could still be completely right. So I would say that was kind of the biggest thing that I took away. But you'll make a lot of great friends. You'll be able to travel a lot, learn a lot about culture. Yeah.
My experience, my thing would be say, yes, travel is possible post grad, but it'll never be easier than now. It'll never be facilitated by an amazing program like CEA CAPA, CIS Abroad. And yeah, just like I think more than just a break from reality, it's our time to learn how to be global citizens and really have cultural appreciation and learn more about ourselves. And I think your early 20s is an amazing time to do that while you can still directly apply it to your college theme of study and get to know a place beyond the stigmas. And you really get to know it in a really like routine, like build a routine and like understand different academic structures around the world.
And for me, I mean, everyone pre-med around me is like, oh, I'll never have time to study abroad. Like, that's not possible. And I thought the same thing, but Atlantis really did, no matter what you were pre-health, you were gaining shadowing hours that can be put towards your future, and that I will be applying to med school in this rotation. So I'll definitely be using all these experiences, and they've helped shape my personal statement and my outlook on global health. So it is so recommended that you do this, and it doesn't, it's no negative impact at all if your shadowing hours are broad or anything. So definitely do it.
Well, this has been amazing. We're right at time, and I hate to cut off the convo because I could keep talking all night, but thank you all so much for your time. This has been wonderful. Thank you for the folks who have been here. Again, we're going to send out a summary afterwards, but appreciate y'all so much and hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank y'all so much for joining. And thank you to the panelists. Y'all did an amazing job.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Thank
you. Bye, y'all.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.